สวัสดีครับต้อนรับเข้าสู่สุทธิชัยไลฟ์นะครับเช้าวันนี้อย่างที่ผมได้แจ้งให้ทราบนะครับเรามีนัดหมายกับท่านรัฐมนตรีที่มาจากรัฐวิกตอเรียของออสเตรเลียครับท่านฟิลิปดาลีดาคิสซึ่งเป็นรัฐมนตรีที่นั่นเขาเรียก Minister for Small Business Innovation and Trade นะครับซึ่งก็แปลว่าเป็นรัฐมนตรีของรัฐวิกตอเรียว่าด้วยธุรกิจขนาดย่อมนวัตกรรมและการค้าซึ่งก็แปลว่าเป็นการผสมผสานการค้านวัตกรรมรวมไปถึงธุรกิจย่อยและท่านรัฐมนตรีก็มาเยี่ยมประเทศไทยและก็มาพูดจาสนทนากับผู้ที่เกี่ยวข้องเพื่อเชื่อมโยงระหว่างรัฐวิกตอเรียของออสเตรเลียกับประเทศไทยนะครับแต่ท่านรัฐมนตรีฟิลิปดาลีดาคิสนี่เข้าใจว่าพูดภาษาไทยได้ด้วยนะครับผมก็ไม่แน่ใจว่าท่านเรียนภาษาไทยจากเมื่อไหร่ตอนหนุ่มมาเที่ยวเมืองไทยมาอยู่เมืองไทยอย่างไรแต่ว่าเราพูดคุยสนทนากับท่านรัฐมนตรีครับสวัสดีครับท่านรัฐมนตรีฟิลิปดาลีดาคิสครับ
สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีครับสวัสดีครับSo we speak Thai or English
ก็พูดภาษาไทยพูดภาษาอังกฤษก็ได้
ได้ครับได้ครับเรียนภาษาไทยตั้งแต่ตอนอายุเท่าไหร่ครับ
ปีเดียวแหละครับก็ประมาณ23ปีที่แล้วเป็นนักเรียนแลกเปลี่ยนที่จังหวัดอุดรเรียนที่โรงเรียนอุดรพิทยานุกูลนะครับแล้วก็เรียนปีเดียว
เรียนปีเดียวเองเรียนหนึ่ง
อะไรนะครับ
เรียนแค่1 ปีเหรอครับเป็นนักเรียนแลกเปลี่ยนเนี่ย
ครับผมก็เป็นโรตารีแหละครับ
แล้วเรียนแลกเปลี่ยนปีเดียวนี่ยังจำภาษาไทยได้จนถึงวันนี้เหรอครับ
ไม่แน่นะครับก็คิดว่าก็โชคดีแล้วครับ
เก่งมากเก่งมากเพราะว่าปีเดียวถ้าเป็นเด็กไทยไปเรียนภาษาอังกฤษปีเดียวนี่ยังไม่ได้เรื่องเท่าไหร่ยังพูดไม่ได้เท่าไหร่เลยครับ
อาจารย์ที่อุดรพิก็เก่งมากๆเลย
อาจารย์ที่อุดรนะครับทำไมไปที่อุดรตอนนั้น
เพราะว่าก็มาจากเมลเบิร์นเป็นบิ๊กซิตี้แหละครับก็อยากไปที่ก็ rural regional Thailand นะครับก็อุดรคิดว่าก็ดีกว่ากรุงเทพ
ดีมากเลยแล้วชอบไหมครับชอบอุดรไหมครับ
ชอบมากเลยชอบอาหารอีสานแล้วก็ที่ประชุมนะครับก็พวกคนทุกคนนะครับก็เป็นลูกอีสาน
เป็นลูกอีสานด้วยเนี่ยมีคนที่เข้ามาฟังเราพร้อมๆกันคุณพอถามว่ามีภรรยาเป็นคนไทยหรือเปล่าครับไม่ใช่
ไม่หรอก
So what are you doing, Minister, in Bangkok today?
So I'm now at the end of 4 days here in Thailand.
Yes.
I had a number of meetings with some of your ministers.
Yes.
Your Minister for Digital Economy, your Minister for Commerce, and your Vice Minister for Education. And this was an opportunity for me to meet with them and talk about the opportunities, of course, between Victoria and Thailand.
Is this your first time as minister in Thailand?
Yeah. So I've been to Thailand, I think, 5 times now.
Right.
And this is the first time that I've been able to present myself as a minister in the Victorian government in a professional capacity.
So why did it take you so long to come to Thailand after you became minister?
Well, it's a very good question. And the response is that I've been very careful because as the Minister for Trade, there are a lot of objectives that I must meet on behalf of the people of Victoria.
Right.
And I was mindful that if I came to Thailand too quickly, people would see that my love for Thailand was the reason for coming. And I wanted to make sure that when I came at the right time and for the right reasons.
So you were afraid of having a Thai bias, huh? You didn't want people to think that you had a bias for Thailand. So you wanted to wait for some official business before you could come.
Well, I can't pretend that I have a Thai bias because I do have a Thai bias.
You do.
So as you know, Suthichai, that perception in politics is everything.
It's true. It's true. ครับท่านรัฐมนตรีฟิลิปเนี่ยบอกว่าเนี่ยความจริงควรจะมาไทยนานแล้วตั้งแต่ได้เป็นรัฐมนตรีของรัฐวิกตอเรียเนี่ยแต่ว่ากลัวว่าถ้ามาเร็วเดี๋ยวคนที่ออสเตรเลียจะบอกมีความลำเอียงรักไทยเป็นพิเศษมีอะไรพิเศษหรือเปล่ามานี่มีธุรกิจจริงๆหรือว่าเพราะว่ามีหลงรักประเทศไทยส่วนตัวหรือเปล่าฉะนั้นท่านรัฐมนตรีก็เลยระวังก็รอจังหวะฉะนั้นมาคราวนี้ท่านรัฐมนตรีจะเสนออะไรที่มีการเชื่อมโยงระหว่างรัฐวิกตอเรียซึ่งผมชอบมากเลยนะครับเพราะว่าเมลเบิร์นเนี่ยเป็นเมืองที่ล่าสุดนี่มีคนโหวตว่าเป็นเมืองที่น่าอยู่ที่สุดในโลกเลยนะใช่ไหมครับเมลเบิร์นซึ่งเป็นเมืองหลวงของรัฐวิกตอเรียเนี่ย
Yeah, so look, there are a lot of opportunities between Melbourne and Victoria and indeed Thailand.
Yeah.
And tourism, of course, is one. The destinations here in Thailand are very, very popular with all Australians, whether it be Phuket or Krung Thep, Chiang Mai, Chiang Rai, or even Pattaya. There are a lot of opportunities for Australians to come, and we see tourism as a very important part of our relationship, but also manufacturing, exports between Thailand and Australia. Of course, the majority of automobiles come from the Thai manufacturing plants now. So there is a lot of opportunity from Thailand into Australia, but also from Australia and Victoria into Thailand. Dairy, agriculture, number one. Number two, international education also is very important. In fact, Suthichai, let me tell you that when it comes to our agriculture, Victoria is only 3% of the land in Australia, but we account for 23% of our food exports. Wow. And if you look at the dairy industry, Victoria is responsible for 80% of our dairy exports from Australia.
Wow. So only 3% of the land, but you take up a huge percentage in terms of exports. Why
Yes,
so?
That's correct.
How did you manage to do that?
Well, one of the things that I say is Victoria is not a state that's full of resources like Western Australia or Queensland, but we are a resource-rich state because, of course, as you can see, we spend a lot of time and effort in supporting our businesses that are exporting around the world. แล้วก็ที่ trade and investment นะครับก็ออสเตรเลียมีก็ Austrade แล้ว Victoria ก็20 ออฟฟิศนะครับก็ใน Globe มีออฟฟิศที่จาการ์ตาอินโดสิงคโปร์กัวลาลัมเปอร์โตเกียวโซลที่ประเทศจีนนะครับก็มีนะครับก็ฮ่องกงเบจิงแนนจิงช่างไห่เซี่ยงดูนะครับก็อินเดีย2บังกลาก็มุมไบด้วยที่ยุโรปนะครับก็มี2ก็ที่ลอนดอนกับแฟรงก์เฟิร์ตในเยอรมนีอเมริกาเป็น5ละครับซานฟรานซิสโกชิคาโกวอชิงตันดีซีก็นิวยอร์กแล้วก็บอสตันแล้วก็มีที่ลาตินอเมริกาด้วยละครับก็ที่ชิลีซันติอาโก so our investment in our office network is only second to Austrade and this is a very important part of helping our businesses whether they're small, medium or large businesses, being able to take their product or service to the world.
หมายความว่าวิกตอเรียรัฐวิกตอเรียเนี่ยของออสเตรเลียนี่มีสำนักงานที่ส่งเสริมการลงทุนและก็การส่งออกการท่องเที่ยวเนี่ยอยู่ใน20ประเทศหรือ20แห่งทั่วโลกใช่ไหม
Yeah, so 20 offices across many countries and regions.And
Thailand มีหรือยังประเทศไทยมีหรือยังครับ
ยังนะครับ
ฉะนั้นต้องรีบมาตั้งที่ประเทศไทยแล้วนะครับท่านรัฐมนตรี
well after this phone call I'll have words with my department back in Melbourne and if we can get an office here we'll call it the Suthichai office
well I think you need to make your presence felt in Thailand แต่ว่าในอาเซียนเนี่ยคุณไปเปิดที่กัวลาลัมเปอร์แล้วเมื่อกี้บอกใช่ไหม
Sure
ที่ในอาเซียนมีที่กัวลาลัมเปอร์แล้วมีที่ไหนอีกครับของรัฐวิกตอเรียเนี่ยนอกจากอเมริกา
ขอโทษครับก็ไม่ได้ยินนะครับ
นอกจากมาเลเซียเนี่ยวิกตอเรียได้ไปตั้งสำนักงานที่ไหนบ้างในอาเซียน
so ASEAN is the second most important region for us for our trade exports. When you consider that ประเทศจีนnumber one นะครับก็เบอร์หนึ่งนะครับประมาณ6 ถึง 6.9 billion Australian dollar นะครับก็ ASEAN ก็ใกล้ๆ 6.7 billion นะครับ
ใกล้มากเลยระหว่างการค้าระหว่างออสเตรเลียกับจีนกับของอาเซียนนี่ใกล้กันมากเลย
ครับผม so we need to do more into ASEAN. Before I came to Thailand, we spent some time in Myanmar, ที่Yangon, แล้วก็เนปิโดด้วยand the issue for us is to build on the friendship. And I just want to point out to the people watching, it's the one area, of course, that Australia and Thailand have enjoyed a friendship for a very, very long time. So it's very easy for me to come into Thailand because we don't have to spend a lot of time getting to know each other. Because the love, the respect, the friendship, the understanding between our two people goes back beyond 60 years.
That's true. And we have no dispute. We don't fight.
No, and we were one of the first countries with a free trade agreement, a bilateral free trade agreement.
That's true.
And when I spoke with your Minister for Commerce on Wednesday, we had a very warm meeting, and we agreed that in the lead up to the tariffs being removed in 2020, we have a new opportunity to re-engage business here in Thailand and also Victoria to get them thinking about the new opportunities presented with the removal of the tariffs.
Since you are Minister in charge of small business as well, what do you plan to do with Thailand on SME business?
Yeah, well, I mean, the portfolio of small business works very nicely with the innovation portfolio because the world, as you know, is a much smaller place today than when you started the nation back in 1971.
Well, you know that. You know about the nation too, huh? You were there. You were here in Thailand when we started the nation.
Not in 1971, but I read your newspaper when I lived here in 1994.
Oh, okay, 1994. What were you doing in 1994?
ก็23 ปีที่แล้วเป็นนักเรียนแลกเปลี่ยน
23 ปีที่แล้ว
ที่อุดรครับผมแล้วก็อ่านหนังสือพิมพ์ก็ The Nation นะครับทุกวันเลย
ใช่ตอนนั้นเป็นนักเรียนต้องติดตามข่าวสารครับโอเค
so what I was saying though is that through website traffic in e-commerce small businesses today can reach any market that they need to. And if you have a look at the example of Alibaba.com. Businesses can sell to anybody, anywhere, anytime. And so our ability to help small business is only limited by our ability to help big business as well.
That's true. Well, I met Jack Ma in China last month, and he told me that he wanted to use Alibaba.com to promote small businesses from Thailand and ASEAN into the Chinese market, which he says is expanding rapidly. What do you plan to do for Thai SMEs, small businesses, to penetrate the Australian market through online e-commerce?
Well, I mean, this is a very interesting question because my job is to support trade between our two countries and between my region of Victoria and Thailand. But my job is not to help Thai businesses export into Victoria. So what I can do though is help with the Thai government officials here by increasing the strength of relationships. So when I was with your Commerce Minister, I invited her to bring a business delegation to come to Victoria of businesses of any size to come and see the opportunity both to invest but also to export product. Because trade, of course, is a two-way street. It's not just about Victoria exporting into Thailand. It's also about giving opportunity to Thai businesses. And the best example that I can give you, of course, is one of the largest companies of its type in the world, of course, the CP Food Group. CP Foods has an office in Melbourne, in Victoria. They're Australian head office, in fact. And I met with their executives on Thursday and spoke to them about the opportunities of bringing Victorian produce into their supply chain, but also the opportunity for them to invest more into Victoria as well.
Yeah. But you said you have no business in promoting Thai exports into Australian market. But you say also you are Minister for Small Business. Does it mean the small business in Australia only? You don't try to link up small businesses in Thailand and Australia?
No, of course we want to link up businesses. But you have some wonderful ministers here, and I don't want to have to do their job as well.
Well, you can help them. I mean,
of course,
you know
which is why I invited your Commerce Minister to bring a trade delegation to Victoria.
Yeah. Oh, you are also in charge of innovation. What kind of innovation is Australia doing, and that could help Thailand or could exchange ideas with Thailand about on innovation?
Yeah, so I mean, I had an amazing meeting with your Minister for the Digital Economy. We had a meeting of minds.
Yeah, Dr. Pichet, right? You met with Dr. Pichet of the
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And Pichet and I spoke about, for example, things like tax policies and incentives, grants, what we do to encourage our startups. Things like programs like accelerator and incubator programs as well, and how we do it with different regulations. I understand the issue of Uber and ride sharing is an issue that the government is starting to look at. This is an issue that the Victorian government just passed legislation 2 weeks ago in the Parliament. So there are opportunities for us to share the legislation and what we're doing in the policy around it, just as there are opportunities to also seek feedback. So when I say it's a two-way street, it's not just learning from us. There is much that I can learn from you. So, for example, I gave a speech to Mahavitilai Mahidon on Wan Purohat, Song Wan Ti Lao. And the speech was on social inclusion. But in Victoria, social inclusion has happened organically with little support from the government. But here in Thailand, your government in 2009 set up an office specifically to look at social inclusion. So there is much that we can also learn from what you're doing here.
So it is important that you link this up and make it sustainable. Because in a lot of cases, we get visits from ministers from other countries. They come, they take pictures, they give interviews, and then they go back home and they forget about it. How do you make sure that this will be continued on a regular, sustainable basis?
Well, there are two reasons. One, คิดถึงลูก คิดถึงประเทศไทยก็เป็นลูกอีสานนะครับ ก็จำไม่ได้เลย So that's the first thing.
รัฐมนตรีฟิลิปนี่เป็นลูกอีสานนะ
Okay. And I happily tell everybody that I meet. In fact, in every meeting that I have where there is a room full of people, I ask those people that are from Isan to put their hands up in the audience, and then I go and give them a very special greeting.
That's good.
Which means that the people from Gungtep or Pak Dai Lakap or Chiang Mai Duai, I leave alone, and I'm sorry, but you can take the boy out of Isan, you can't take the Isan out of the boy. So that's the first thing. The second thing, of course. The second thing is that, as I said to you, with our office network, we have a commissioner that looks after Southeast Asia, and Commissioner Brett Stevens is based out of Jakarta, but we just did a deal with the Australian Thai Chamber of Commerce on Thursday, where an MOU that they will work with the state of Victoria to assist in business development, and also to follow up on opportunities. And also the Commissioner is responsible and reports to me, and I will be asking for monthly updates from him as to how we're tracking with the promises we made to the Minister, or Ministers rather, and also the opportunities that are presented.
That's great, because it is important that you follow it up on the regular basis. Otherwise, it will be meaningless. Your visit will be meaningless if you do not have a system of following things up so that the Thai people can remember Victoria and can remember the Luk Isan minister. So you
Absolutely.
So you tell the Thai people in the room that ขอโทษผมเป็นลูกอีสานลูกเชียงใหม่ภาคใต้ไม่ใช่ผมลูกอีสานเท่านั้นนะครับ
Absolutely. And one of the things that I pride myself on both in Australia and of course when I have meetings is follow-up. This is important. Your time is valuable. My time is valuable. The time of everybody that I meet is as valuable as everybody else's time. And the last thing that I want to do is to take up somebody else's time without actually paying the respect to them of following up on the issues that we've discussed.
Right. And Melbourne has just been voted the most livable city in the world ใช่ไหมครับ Melbourne
Not just the first time for the 7th year in a row and not by
7 ปีซ้อนแล้วเหรอว่าเมลเบิร์นเป็นเมืองที่น่าอยู่ที่สุดในโลกเลยเหรอมันจริงหรือเปล่า
Sure but not from me ล่ะครับfrom the Economist magazine the 7th year in a row Melbourne's the most livable city and I'm not sure when was the last time you've been to Melbourne, Kun Suthichai.
Too long. I was there long time ago when I was just a boy. So,
well, you're still just a young boy, and so I encourage you to come and see Melbourne, and I will take you around Melbourne and Victoria, so that you can see for yourself why Victoria. Is doing so well, why Victoria is so beautiful, and why you should move to Victoria for some of the year.
No, you tell the Thai people now in Thai, why is Melbourne so good, most livable city in the world? ทำไมเมลเบิร์นจึงกลายเป็นเมืองที่น่าอยู่ที่สุดในโลกต่อซ้อนกันมา7 ปีเต็ม
ๆคุณสุรชัยก็มีกี่นาทีแล้วครับ
ครับได้เลยพูดขายของได้เลยขาย
เพราะว่าผมคิดว่าก็นี่ประมาณ2 หรือ 3 ชั่วโมงนะครับ
โอ้โหไม่ต้อง2-3 นาทีว่าทำไมเมลเบิร์นน่าอยู่ด้วยเหตุผลอะไรเอาสัก
ก็พี่ละครับก็อากาศดีละครับ
อากาศ
ก็ธุรกิจก็ easy ละครับก็ the taxes low
ภาษีต่ำเดี๋ยวทีละเรื่องท่านรัฐมนตรี1อากาศดีใช่ไหม
อากาศดีแล้วครับ
อากาศดี
ก็ที่วินเทอร์แล้วครับก็หนาวแล้วครับก็ไม่ร้อนที่ซัมเมอร์ก็ประมาณ25-27 ดีกรีแล้วครับก็ blue sky ทุกวันแล้วครับ
โอ้ท้องฟ้าสีครามสีฟ้าทุกวันเลยนะครับสู้ภูเก็ตได้ไหมสู้สมุยได้ไหม
เคยไปภูเก็ตเคยไปสมุยแล้วครับ
ผมว่าสมุยภูเก็ต
อะไรนะครับ
สู้ภูเก็ตได้ยังไงเมลเบิร์นดีกว่าภูเก็ตกับสมุยยังไง
โอ้เมลเบิร์นชัวร์แล้วถ้าคุณพูดว่าโคสเมตไม่แน่ใจเลยครับก็โคสเมตด้วย
เกาะเสม็ดอาจจะดีกว่าใช่ไหมเกาะเสม็ดอาจจะสวยกว่าเมลเบิร์น
เท่ากันนะครับเท่ากัน
นะโอเคอากาศดีภาษีเมื่อกี้บอกภาษีต่ำกว่าที่อื่นเหรอครับ
we also have a very high skilled workforce so in the innovation sector if you have a look at Victoria within ICT Melbourne and Victoria produces nearly 38% 38% นะครับ of IT graduates ในประเทศออสเตรเลียก็ New South Wales ประมาณ27 Queensland ก็ 17% นะครับ so we have a very high skilled workforce within areas we have the lowest cost of business on the eastern seaboard of Victoria we have some of the highest skilled workforce as I was saying but of course the last 11 years Victoria has outgrown the rest of the country in our population and on the current trend around 2035 Melbourne will overtake Sydney as the biggest city in the country and shortly thereafter Victoria will be the biggest state overtaking New South Wales so we're growing very quickly whilst we don't have population unemployment as low as Thailand, our unemployment by Western standards is quite low at around 5.6% at the moment. We have low debt. In fact, our government has a surplus of 1 billion Australian dollars this year, and at least a minimum of $1 billion every year going forward. We are significantly spending on infrastructure, in education, roads and rail as well, to ensure that business can move around Melbourne as they need, and that people can be moving around Melbourne as they want.
You are saying that Victoria will be much bigger and much more advanced than New South Wales, where the capital, the national capital, is located.
No, the national capital is in Canberra. But this is a very good, Suthichai, this is a very good point that you make. Let me tell you and your listeners, the thing that Melbourne has that Sydney does not is that we have been the national capital of Australia. Between 1901 and 1926, when we federated, Melbourne was the capital of Australia before it moved to Canberra in the Australian Capital Territory. Sydney has never been the capital of Australia.
No, but people know Sydney better than Melbourne. No?
Well, you might say that people know Sydney better, but everywhere that I've gone in Thailand, everyone knows Melbourne, and they all tell me that they know how beautiful Melbourne is. No one's mentioned, you're the first person in the trip that has mentioned Sydney.
No, I'm sure if you do a survey, people will say, when you talk about Australia, they think about Sydney first, not Melbourne. You can do a survey on that.
Well, that might be true, but I promise you, I'm a politician. Would I lie to you? You're the first person to mention Sydney on my trip.
Really? They were polite to you. They were polite. But I'm trying to be truthful. Okay, you can beat Sydney. Canberra is quite boring to me. But Melbourne, you think Melbourne can beat Sydney in terms of business activities, in terms of innovation?
So Kun Suthichai, let me put it this way. If you're in Sydney, it's almost impossible to buy a drink after 10 p.m. And you cannot fly, you cannot leave their airport after 11 p.m. In Melbourne, we have a 24-hour nightlife, and we have a 24-hour airport.
So you are more lively than Sydney, which is quite strange to me, because Sydney's image is the modern city where you can do anything you want.
Kun Suthichai, what I need you to do, and I will speak to my commissioner, and we will try and see whether we can facilitate you to come to Australia. We will bring you to Melbourne. You can take yourself to Sydney, and then when you come back, you can do a Facebook Live with your followers, and you can tell them what you think. Because I can't tell. I promise you, it doesn't matter what I do for you. I know that you will tell listeners the truth, and I expect you to tell them the truth, because I know that if you come to Melbourne, that you will tell your listeners what a wonderful city we are.
I'm ready to do that. I'm ready to do the comparison between Sydney and Melbourne.
And maybe we should do a Facebook Live together in Melbourne.
No, when you go back to Melbourne, I like to do a Facebook Live with you when you sit on the beach and show me the blue sky from Melbourne live, so that we can discuss it and see the real pictures from you.
Tell me, Kun Suthichai, have you had Greek food before?
Greek food, no. But not really the real Greek food.
Fine. I would. So the other thing about Melbourne, you can go anywhere in Melbourne, and you can be anywhere in the world. I can take you to Oakley, which is like being in Little Athens. I can take you to Lygon Street in Carlton, which is like being in Italy. I can take you to Springvale, which is like being in Vietnam. I can take you to Chinatown in the city, and it's like being anywhere in China. I can take you into Victoria Street to the Australia's best Thai restaurant. And I can take you anywhere you want to go, and I can show you a hospitality and culture and food that is representative of anywhere in the world.
But you don't have a Thai town yet in Melbourne.
Oh, we have the world's best Thai restaurant.
Really? It's very good. Thai restaurant in Melbourne.
And you know why? Because อาหารอีสานแซ่บปอแซ่บอีลีอีโลกระโดกระเดีย
แซ่บอีหลีเลยนะอาหารไทยที่อาหารอีสานที่เมลเบิร์นนี่แซ่บอีหลีเลยนะ
มีไส้กรอกอีสานไก่ย่างข้าวเหนียวส้มตำลาบก็โอเคนะ
ครบถ้วนแล้วโอ้โหอาหารอีสานครบถ้วนเลยที่เมลเบิร์นเพราะว่าท่านรัฐมนตรีคนนี้เป็นลูกอีสานสุดยอดเลย How did you get involved in politics when you came to Udon as an exchange student? You went back.
Yes, sir.
You went to university. How did you get involved in politics and did you get elected or was it an appointment as minister?
So I was elected to the Victorian Parliament in November 2014, and I became a minister in the government in July 2015. And this is a question that I've been asked often. Why politics? How did I get into politics? And the two answers is that my mother and my father brought me up to always ask questions, to be inquisitive, to be interested in current affairs. So from a young age, I always took an interest in what was happening, not just in Australia, but of course around the world, because I'm a first generation Australian. My father came to Australia in 1965 when my mother convinced him that his future was with her and in Australia. My mother arrived in Australia as a 6-year-old girl, a refugee from Germany, having been born in Shanghai because my mother's parents, as Jewish Germans, fled Germany in 1938 from the Nazi regime. So I've always had a strong sense of doing something for others and helping others to make their lives better, and an interest in world and local affairs.
So you were born in a family that had a lot of international exposure, meaning that father, mother had this experience from around the world in a very dramatic way too.
Yes, sir. And even now, my family largely lives overseas. I still have a lot of family in Greece. I have family in Israel. My sister and her family live in America. So I have family in all parts of the world that if I want to see them, I have to travel.
Are people in Victoria, Australians in Victoria, quite familiar with what happens around the world outside of Victoria?
Oh, yes, of course. The reason, of course, being that is because Australia is so far away from the rest of the world that we must make a special effort to stay engaged. And that's a very good example of why the Victorian government invests so heavily in our trade and office network overseas to ensure that we remain connected with other parts of the world as well.
So Victoria is becoming the most important state in Australia?
Oh, I'd like to think we are the most important state in Australia. But in terms of population, yes, we will become the most important state in Australia very soon.
How big is the population of Victoria now?
We're about 6.5 million people.
Yeah, and New South Wales?
At the moment, about 8 million.
So you are going to overtake them soon?
Yes.
And GDP?
GDP, well, our gross state product is quite significant. We're about, I think, 26% of Australia's gross national product. When you have a look, in fact, at some of the other metrics, I told you a little bit about our agricultural and dairy. But, of course, our state budget is well beyond 65 billion Australian dollars.
Wow. We feel in ASEAN that Australian people are generally not too much aware of what happens in ASEAN in the rest of Asia. We think that Australians tend to be associated with the Western world and not Asia. Is that changing? Is that mentality changing in Australia?
Yeah, so look, I think that reputation was from an era that was long gone. If I look at my family, for example, and I think my family is very typical of the modern day Victorian family. I have one older sister. When she went through high school, she spoke Bahasa, Indonesian. I learned, of course, Thai. My daughter's in government school, currently learning Korean. So I think that there is a huge interest in not just ASEAN but across Asia, and a view that our future is in the region. And I think that this goes back, and believe it or not, back to the early 1990s when Prime Minister Keating established APEC. And the reason that he established APEC was because he understood that the importance of Asia was just not economic, it was cultural, that we were part of an amazing region of cultures, of history, of food, and that our future was in understanding them better and having all of you understand us better.
So you also serve as a link to Asia because of your experience in Asia as a young boy. But
that's correct.
And tourism from Thailand to Victoria, is it growing?
So, look, it's growing in some numbers, but there's a lot of room to move. I think the last time I looked, I think Thailand visitors to Victoria was number 17 on the list. So there's a lot more that we can do to grow that, but we also need to make sure that we have something to offer for Thai people to come. We provide them what they're looking for. We have the translators that can assist them. Although I must say that most Thai people that I meet, English is very, very good, much better than my Thai.
Because you have stayed away from Thailand for too long, so your experience, engagement with the Thai people has...
Maybe you should offer me a job to come and work at the Nation. And then I can improve my... I'll speak Thai to you and you can speak English to me.
No, let me tell you, you can practice Thai by doing Facebook Live with me, say once a month in Thai, and you can prepare to discuss Australian politics with me. So the Thai people will understand Australian politics, Victorian politics, economics, and all these things. So you can be a regular contributor.
I tell you what, if you genuinely would like me to be a regular on your Facebook Live, I would be absolutely humbled to and honoured to do so.
I love to, because I think that Australia and Thai relations should be strengthened through digital communications, right?
So, you know what the funny thing is, Kun Sumchai? So, Suthichai, we've got Victoria, Melbourne, the number one city, livable city in the world. The number one coffee capital of Australia. The sporting capital of the world. The arts capital of Australia. The shopping capital of Australia. And now, the Thai Facebook Live capital of Australia.
We should do that. We should make it another first, right?
Done. Absolutely.
Because I think that we need to link up, and because of the new technology, we could do that easily. And
you know what else we can do? As part of our monthly Facebook Live session, you can bring me one Thai small business 1 month, and I'll bring you a Victorian small business that we will highlight, and we will tell people who they are, what they do, and why they should use them.
Great. Let's do that. Let's do something really concrete and really substantial, so that it's not only just talk, but we can really achieve something that can be, can be substantial.
I like it. I think that was your idea, a very good idea.
Because I believe in using digital and social media to promote understanding, to promote knowledge, and to promote better quality of information.
Done.
There's an interesting question from Kun Mana, who is watching us. Minister Philip Dalidakis มีเป้าหมายจะเป็นนายกรัฐมนตรีของออสเตรเลียหรือไม่ครับ
So why am I a minister?
No. มีเป้าหมายจะเป็นนายกรัฐมนตรี Prime Minister. Do you plan to become Prime Minister of Australia in the future?
Well, I think your government is too clever to give me Thai citizenship.
No, Australia Prime Minister.
Oh, Australia, no, because I'm a minister in Victoria.
Yeah.
At this stage, I have no plans to go federal.
No.
I love Victoria. I love where I work. I love where I live. And I'm very grateful to have the opportunity that I have. But if I was to become a minister in the federal government,
yeah.
I would have to work much more in Canberra. And
you
described Canberra earlier for everybody.
I've been to Canberra, and it's quite boring to me. So no plan, no ambition to become a federal politician, and finally to become Prime Minister of Australia. No. What if you become so popular, so good, that you are noticed? You are noted nationally, and then people say, "We need you, Minister Philip Dalidakis."
Well, I'm not sure that there are many people that would share that view. But look, I'll keep you happy and say that in politics you say never. Never is never, and
never say never, right?
You never say never. So look, it's always a possibility. But at the moment, I love what I do, and I've got absolutely no desire to change.
Yeah, you're a very good politician. You're trying to please your constituency now, who's Victoria. Okay, finally, what do you expect after this trip? How do you expect the relationship between Victoria and Thailand to proceed from now? What have you got really substantially from this trip?
Well, I mean, as I think I indicated to you, I really hope to see one or two trade delegations from Thailand come and visit.
Yeah.
We have a lot of policy areas that we've asked for some more information from your officials.
Yes.
And we've offered to get more information from our officials to your ministers and your ministerial staff.
Yes.
So there's a lot of follow-up to be done.
Yes.
And some of it will be done behind the scenes, of course.
Yes.
But others, we will continue to work with some of your Thai companies to look at opportunities to expand their investment in Victoria,
yes.
to expand the investment of Victorian companies back into Thailand.
Yes.
And of course, I would welcome the opportunity to support Thai businesses wanting to export into Victoria.
Yeah.
So much so that the Thai Australia network in Melbourne has kindly offered for me to be a patron of their business network, and I'm working through that offer at the moment, and I hope to be able to take that up.
Yeah, and don't forget about education.
Oh, for me, education is everything. My mother was a primary school teacher her whole career. So for me, the number one thing that we as a government can do is to provide every child an exceptional education, which will give them the opportunity to grow, to see that their dreams become reality, to either work in a business or have their own business,
right.
but to be able to have a very productive life.
And how do you promote more exchanges of students, Thai students, to Victoria and vice versa?
Well, that's also a very good question, and I haven't had some discussions at this stage with my counterpart.
Yeah.
But the Australian government has what they call the Colombo Plan,
yes.
which is sending Australian students around Asia, including to Thailand.
Yes.
And of course, we need to speak with the Thai government about what we can do to look at bringing some Thai students to Australia in a reciprocal way.
Well, your own experience as an exchange student did a lot. I'm sure that was a great contribution to your experience. So other young people should also benefit from the kind of exchange program that you enjoyed. How do you promote that? You don't have to be education minister to do this, right?
Yeah, so look, that doesn't just have to be about education, of course, because education is about learning some of the principles or the technical nature of subjects. I think what I gained out of my exchange was more than just education by books. It was education by life.
Yes.
And I was very, very lucky to have the opportunity via Rotary. But there's also, of course, AFS. There are other organisations. Sure. There are university exchanges that universities work within their own networks to exchange students as well.
Yeah.
When I was in Mahidol, I met students that were going as far away as to Germany shortly, and America. And so the opportunity for them to come to Australia is there.
Right.
We just need to provide that opportunity.
Yes, and you, of course, innovation. Since you're in charge of innovation, my idea would be that you should get more Thai kids to go and expose them to innovation in Australia, because we badly need a kind of ecosystem or atmosphere where creativity, innovative ideas could really be exploited and can be used. Our young kids, Thai young kids, need to spend some time in some of your innovative centers. Can you? Yeah.
So I spoke to Dr. Pichette about that also, and I will continue discussions with the federal government, the Australian federal government, to see whether or not we can have some programs that bring some Thai startups into Victoria as well.
Yes, that's great. Okay, so thank you very much, Minister Philip Dalidakis, who I think misses Thailand a lot, and you took too long for you to come back. แต่ว่าไม่เป็นไรตอนสุดท้ายนี้อยากจะให้ท่านรัฐมนตรีฟิลิปคุยกับคนไทยว่าคิดยังไงอยากจะเห็นความสัมพันธ์ของประเทศไทยกับรัฐวิกตอเรียของออสเตรเลียเป็นยังไงครับพูดภาษา
ขอบคุณมากๆเลยครับ
พูดภาษาไทยหน่อยสั้นๆครับ
Well, what I want to leave you with is that my love for Thailand is the same as my love for Australia.
Yeah.
There is nowhere that I can go in Thailand that I don't have a smiling face greet me, and a warm welcome of friendship. And so, from my perspective, then if I can help repay the love and the friendship that was provided to me when I was a young man, and that continues to be afforded and provided to me in my professional capacity, then of course I want to do that. ก็มีรู้สึกมีความสุขแล้วครับก็ประเทศไทยก็ทุกวันแล้วครับ
รักประเทศไทยรักประเทศไทยคิดถึงประเทศไทยตลอดเวลาแล้วชอบกินอาหารไทยชอบอะไรที่สุดครับอาหารไทย
ไส้กรอกอีสานข้าวเหนียวส้มตำลาบก็ได้
ลาบก็ได้แล้วหากินที่วิกตอเรียได้ไหมลาบ
ชัวร์
มีไหมร้านอาหารไทยที่มีลาบ
มีนะครับมี
อร่อยไหมเหมือนรสชาติเหมือน
แต่บิลีโลกโดกิเดีย
รสชาติเหมือนกับที่ลาบที่อุดรไหม
เคยกินแล้วครับ
ที่อุดรนะ
ที่อุดรนะแต่ตอนนี้นะ this trip นะครับก็ไม่มีโอกาสกับอุดรนะครับ
ครั้งนี้ไม่ได้ไปอุดรนะครับเสียดาย
ครั้งนี้นะครับก็ไม่มีโอกาสนะครับแต่ครั้งหน้า
คราวหน้ามาอีกนะครับคราวหน้าขอบคุณท่านรัฐมนตรีฟิลิปมากครับที่มาสนทนาด้วยเช้าวันนี้ and don't forget to give me your Skype ID so that we can be linked up on Skype and we can do our Facebook Live.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Done.
Again. Thank you very much, Minister. Thank you.
Okay.
ขอบคุณมากค
รับโชคดีนะครับขอบคุณมากเลย
ขอบคุณมากครับท่านรัฐมนตรีครับสวัสดีครับสวัสดีครับ
เจอกันที่เมลเบิร์นนะครับ
ใช่ครับเจอกันที่เมลเบิร์นครับสวัสดีครับขอบคุณมากครับสวัสดีครับนี่ครับรัฐมนตรีของรัฐวิกตอเรียชื่อฟิลิปดาดิดาคิสครับสงสัยว่าทำไมพูดไทยได้เพราะว่าตอนเป็นนักเรียนเข้าใจว่าระดับมัธยมปลายเป็นนักศึกษานักเรียนแลกเปลี่ยนภายใต้โครงการโรเทอรี่มาอยู่ที่อุดร1 ปีครับ1 ปีนี้พูดภาษาไทยได้อย่างนี้ต้องถือว่าเก่งมากให้เด็กไทยไปอยู่อเมริกา1 ปีพูดภาษาอังกฤษได้แบบนี้ก็คงจะยากนะครับแต่ว่านี่แหละครับอยู่ที่ความสนใจฝึกฝนและก็แน่นอนท่านรัฐมนตรีฟิลิปก็ได้รับเลือกเป็นสสของรัฐสภาท้องถิ่นแล้วก็ได้รับเลือกเป็นรัฐมนตรีเกี่ยวข้องกับธุรกิจขนาดย่อม นวัตกรรมและการค้านี่เป็นตำแหน่งทางการ แล้วท่านก็ยืนยันนะครับว่าเมลเบิร์นเป็นเมืองหลวงของรัฐวิกตอเรียนี่น่าอยู่การลงทุนดีอากาศดีแล้วก็มีนวัตกรรมรวมไปถึงความสามารถในการสร้างคนที่มีทักษะที่สำคัญมากก็คือมี skill labor ก็คือเป็นทักษะสำคัญสำหรับการสร้างนวัตกรรมที่รัฐนั้นฉะนั้นก็จะเป็นการเชื่อมครับระหว่างรัฐวิกตอเรียของออสเตรเลียกับประเทศไทยก็หวังว่าจะเป็นประโยชน์และหวังว่าคนไทยจะใช้โอกาสนี้ติดต่อไปอย่างรัฐวิกตอเรียถ้าหากต้องการไปทำธุรกิจต้องการที่จะเชื่อมความสัมพันธ์ระหว่างกันผมเชื่อว่าคนไทยต้องมองไปข้างนอกและติดต่อหาโอกาสทางการศึกษาธุรกิจด้านสังคมและการเชื่อมโยงในทุกๆด้านนะครับขอบคุณทุกท่านที่ติดตามครับสวัสดีครับ